Welcome to Go Find Out, the Career Switch podcast. I'm Jennifer Russell, author, career coach, and speaker, bringing you actionable ideas from knowledgeable guests on how to successfully kick your fears to the curb to go after your career goals. You can find more episodes by visiting gofindoutpodcast.com. Enjoy the show and go find out. Welcome back to Go Find Out, the Career Switch podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Russell, and this is episode number 71. Today, I'll be interviewing Andrea Galbreath about her journey from social worker to starting a thriving succulent business. But first, let's jump into my personal update. Hey, career switchers! So we are finally rounding the corner into spring here in Maine, which is good because we are definitely out of firewood. However, before we can get to actual spring, we have to get through what's known as the Spring of Deception here in Maine, also known as mud season. Basically, we'll have a few beautiful days in the 60s, which is just enough to make you start thinking of planting those seedlings or buying some fun flowers to plant outside. But it's a trick. It's the Spring of Deception, and if you plant anything during this time, you will be so sorry when we get that random May frost. So right now, all of my farm efforts are going into starting seedlings indoors. Part of those seedlings will be for sale to my neighbors, and the other seedlings we'll actually plant in our greenhouse when the ground is warm enough in there. So it's things like lots of different types of tomatoes, bell peppers, hot peppers, that kind of thing. I am also still completing Avocademy's UX UI design bootcamp, and I am still loving it. I am actually just entering week 5 of the bootcamp, so I am a little more than halfway through. In the last week's lessons, I started learning about wireframing, and I built out the wireframe for my project, which is really basically like a rough digital mock-up of the app that I'm designing. However, I know that this is the right field to go into because I have started having dreams about building wireframes. So kind of like how you'll hear Andrea talk in today's interview about how she knows that she is on the right career path because she gets sucked into research around that career, I usually know that I'm on the right path if I'm dreaming about the thing that I'm working on. If you are thinking about trying something in tech and you're someone who is either great at problem solving and or you've always enjoyed designing things, you might check out UX UI design as well. I've dropped a link for Avocademy's bootcamp in my show notes, so if you want to learn more, check it out. The only other major thing that I've got going on right now is that I'm preparing to speak at a conference in the first week of April. It's mainly focused on case management and how to build a thriving new client pipeline while continuing to provide services for the clients that you already have. So preparing for that conference, along with starting seedlings and keeping up with Avocademy's readings and homework, has pretty much been my life for the past 2 weeks. So now that we are all caught up with me, let's jump into the interview with Andrea. Today, I'm speaking with Andrea Galbreath about her career switch from social work and corporate wellness to a thriving succulent business called Just Succ It. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to chat with you and to learn more about your business and then also, how I can avoid maybe killing my own succulents. So that would be great. But before we kind of dive into all that, I understand. So you had a 20-year career in social work and corporate wellness. Can you tell us what made you take that leap to starting your own business in such a different area than your traditional career?
Well, it was a bit of a transition, really. I was a full-time social worker in Tennessee, and I was married at the time. And then I moved to California, and I wasn't working at all. I was a stay-at-home mom. And then I realized that wasn't for me. I love being a mom, but being a stay-at-home mom and not working wasn't enough. So I actually was, I had pivoted a little bit to health and wellness.
Hmm.
And I started teaching fitness classes
Oh, nice.
and created a few online programs. And then I got into corporate wellness around, I think, 2014. And that was really fun because it allowed me to combine my experience with social work, with health promotion and disease prevention. And I did that until the corona apocalypse when all of my contracts were canceled and
Mm.
I had just redid my yard
Oh
to
my.
make it drought tolerant. And
Hmm.
I was obsessed with succulents. And I thought, well, let me see what I can do with this. See if I can turn this into a business. And
Nice.
it ended up being more successful than anything I've ever done.
That's so cool. So were you always kind of into, gardening and succulents even before you redid your yard, or did it actually stem from that?
Oh no, I used to kill everything. Succulents are really the only thing I've been able to keep alive. And I'm just now starting to get into pothos because other houseplant enthusiasts have said, you got to try pothos. But now, after 2 years of being able to keep succulents alive, I feel like I have more confidence. So I
Hmm.
have three at home now that have been alive for several months of the
Oh.
pothos. So yeah, the whole plant thing did not start until I redid my yard in 2020.
Okay, gotcha. And when you actually started your business or when you were beginning to start your business, did you have any like naysayers when you were talking about making that leap?
Um, I'm not going to say I had naysayers, but I have people who would emphasize how hard it was, and it's not
Mm.
9 to 5, and the expense, and how many businesses fail within 5 years, and am I really thinking it through? So most of the people in my life are really supportive, but they also didn't want me to fail. And they were,
Mm,
always wanting to make sure that I had some kind of backup plan, which, as a social worker, I could always go back to social work if I wanted to. So it
that's
was fine.
true. There's definitely
Yeah.
always a need for that pretty much everywhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I did hospice social work,
Oh,
which I absolutely loved. So that's probably something, if not that I plan on changing careers, but if I did, I would just probably go back to something like that.
yeah, that makes total sense. And did you have any fears when you first started the business?
Oh, absolutely. Fear of failure. Because there's so much to learn. And when I worked for somebody else, when I was a hospice social worker, I didn't have to worry about the admin part. I just did my job and then I left. So I was really skilled at being a social worker, but there's so much to running a business. Like there's the admin and the finances and the marketing and I have a product based business, so managing the inventory, which is
Mm,
absolutely new. So being able to balance all of those things
mhm.
can be really overwhelming and really scary.
Yeah.
But I have to say, the difference between doing Just Suck It and anything else that I've done is that I have learned over time that everything is figure outable. That's Marie
Mm,
Forleo. That's not from me, but I love that. Everything is figure outable. So I decided to just say yes to everything. And I thought, I'm going to say yes to anything that's in line with my goals for the next 18 months. And
nice.
if I like it, I'll keep doing it. If I don't, I won't do it. But unless I say yes and try, I'm not going to know what works and what doesn't work. And I really think that that is one of the reasons why Just Suck It has been so successful. It's because even though I was afraid to try new things, I still said yes. And that's how I learned how to ship, because I didn't know how to ship a succulent, but someone asked me, do you ship? And I said, sure, yeah, I ship. And then for, and then for a week, I was frantic watching YouTube videos and ordering succulent arrangements from other online stores. And then I would open
Mm,
up the box and record to see how it arrived because I didn't want to forget. And that's how I learned how to ship.
that's so awesome. And I wouldn't have thought of doing that kind of like market research, and I wouldn't have even thought to call it that. Do you know what I mean? Like that's really cool.
I knew that other people do it,
Hmm.
so I could learn too.
Yeah.
And why not just learn from other people who are experts? So I found some of the biggest online retailers of plants and succulents and just ordered several things from them. And it was interesting, they all pretty much ship the same. So it wasn't that
Huh.
hard to figure out.
Yeah. And like why reinvent the wheel? That makes total sense.
Exactly.
And what would you say has been your biggest hurdle so far with Just Suck
Well, the
It?
biggest one currently is I was sent a cease and desist
Oh,
from Nike
oh my
for
gosh.
trademark infringement.
Ah,
So that right now is literally the biggest obstacle I've ever had to deal with.
yes, that's
And
crazy.
I know we're still figuring it out. I think
Hmm.
the whole thing's ridiculous. However, I have learned a lot about trademarks
Mm,
and trademark law and famous trademarks, and I'm going to come out on top no matter what happens, whether I have to change my name or not. But this by far has been one of the biggest hurdles. What's really interesting, actually, the lesson in this is that no matter how well we plan something out, as a business owner, you try to do things right, but sometimes things just don't work the way that you plan.
right.
And I did what I thought was right. I hired an attorney, filed the trademark, did the whole search, and this happened. And
Mm,
so the lesson for business owners or anybody who wants to switch is know that even with the best planning and the best intentions, sometimes things don't go as planned, and you have to be willing to pivot.
and I mean, it's obviously this is not a good thing that Nike has sent you a cease and desist letter, but also like when you started your business, did you ever imagine that you would be capturing the attention of Nike?
I had no idea. You know what's really funny too is, that in a matter of 8 days, I was sent the cease and desist, and then a porn star shared my open letter to Phil Knight, who was the founder of Nike, and I thought,
Oh my.
there's no way I could have planned for this. There's who could have seen this happening?
Yes, that's so
So,
crazy.
I'm also there's a certain amount of delight in this just because I couldn't plan for it, and I'm learning so much, and
Right.
it's actually brought me several opportunities that probably wouldn't have happened if they
Mm,
hadn't sent the cease and desist. I wanna keep my name,
of course.
obviously, but I've grown because of it. So,
Mm.
I'm winning. I'm winning no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, it'd be great if you could keep your name, but some of your products have such great names, like some of your packages, that I could totally see those becoming your name. Like the one that's called Embrace the Suck. Oh man, I could totally see that becoming a name if you had to shift.
It's in the running. It is in the
Oh,
running, that one.
ooh,
There are a few. So I have plan A, plan B, plan C,
nice.
and I'm just gonna, put things out there and see what lands with my customers.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Because
smart.
yeah, because one of the reasons why I have such great customers is because we share the same sense of humor. They see the name and they wonder, what in the world is this? And then they come to the website and then they love it and then they order. I've had
Mm,
several people say, I don't like the name, it's offensive, it's rude, I'm never going to order from you. And I'm thinking, well, that's okay. You're not my customer.
right.
That's absolutely fine. So I really want to find a name that my customers will enjoy as well because
Mm,
it brings us together.
right. Right. That makes total sense. Yeah. Well, do you feel like that you have any particular habits that have helped you to find success?
Yes, and this one, is a double-edged sword because I
Mm,
go all in, sometimes to the point of being obsessive, and, like the shipping thing, I dove in, and it
mhm,
was all I thought about for a week straight, and I ordered so many different packing materials and tried so many different boxes, and with succulents, I when I was introduced to them and then I fell in love with them, I spent hours and hours watching YouTube videos, and I ordered books, and I found blogs and vlogs and, people that could teach me about succulents, and literally all I did 4 months was learn about succulents, and I
mm,
was like that with social work. I cut everything off. I wanted When I decided to be a social worker, I decided I was going to be the best social worker I could be, so I didn't do anything except study about social work, and then when I was pivoted to exercise, the same thing, hours and hours
mm.
and hours of books and videos and interviewing people and who I thought were successful or who knew something that I didn't. So I can get really obsessive about learning,
Mm.
which is good.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think that's can be so important, especially if, you have a business where you're teaching other people how to care for the succulents that they purchase from you. So that makes total sense. And, then you are providing such a better customer experience for them because you're so knowledgeable in that.
And that's why I do it. But when I say it's a double-edged sword, it's because sometimes it would keep me up at night because then I'd
Right.
be thinking about all these things and I've got to figure this out. And I wonder about this plant. And I wonder if I could put this plant over here. And has anyone ever tried growing, an echeveria indoors? And and then I'll get up and then next thing I know, I'm spiraling down YouTube, finding all these videos. And that may or may not have anything to do with succulents, but it probably something to do with business. So I've had some nights where I didn't get much sleep.
Do you feel like, though, that when you find yourself that sucked in to your research, that you know that this is maybe the right thing right now for you for a career because you're so
Oh,
passionate?
absolutely. Absolutely. That is how I know I'm onto something. What I have learned though is that I will get ideas and I think they're a really great idea and then I spend some time and then if I start having more questions that don't actually feel good, I don't get excited
Mhm.
about it. If I start having anxiety about figuring things out, then I know that that's not the right
Mm,
path for me. Now that's something that I had to learn over time, really paying attention to how I actually feel about something. So if I feel lit up and excited and I'm actually okay staying up all night because I'm learning
mhm.
something new, then I know it's right. But if it starts to create anxiety and it doesn't feel good anymore, then that's when I know I need to let it go.
That makes total sense. Gotcha. So, kind of shifting to talking about your business. So, one of your products is the Success Box, which has a potted
Yes.
succulent, a notebook, and a pen, which I think is a really cool gift, honestly, for somebody who's like landed a new job or like started a new business. I think it's a really cool gift to get somebody else. But what is actually your biggest seller right now?
It would be a tie between that, the Success
Oh, okay.
box, and the Pamper Me box.
Ooh,
And that's just full of fun little spa things, so you can have a little spa day at home.
that's
But
cool.
the Success box, I'm glad you noticed that. I love that one because I'm a pen to paper girl, and
Mm.
I know we live in an age of
Hmm.
digital and to-do lists on the phone, but for me, I download better on a piece of paper. So I have pens and notebooks everywhere, and I like to brainstorm everything on paper, and then I take the important bits like my to-do list, since my phone is with me all the time,
Hmm.
then I transfer that to my phone. But
Oh,
to me, for anybody who's creative or anybody who really needs to focus on, or to brainstorm, or if they're creating something, I think it's really important to have a pen and a notebook. And that might make me old school, but that gift box will always be on my website because
nice.
I stand by it.
Yeah, yeah. And now I also saw that you're an author, and then you have an ebook called Embrace the Suck Life Lessons Inspired by Succulents. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, it's less of an ebook and more of a, I don't know, just a little downloadable PDF of
Yeah.
some of my favorite lessons that succulents can teach us.
Mm,
And this probably has to do with my background as a social worker, and my belief that everybody has the ability to grow and change.
mhm.
And I've been able to use succulents to share that message. And embrace the suck is a little bit of, obviously, to play on the word of, the phrase embracing the suck, but
Right.
also suck is in succulents and the lessons that they can teach us. And I just have my favorite analogies, like when you cut the roots off of a succulent, they grow back.
Mhm.
But while they're growing back, it doesn't always look pretty. And that's what healing is. We will always recover. And sometimes life happens and it feels like our roots are cut off from underneath us.
Mhm.
And while we are healing, it's not pretty, but our roots always grow back and we can grow back stronger. So
Mm.
that's one of my favorite
I was
analogies.
going to say that's such a good analogy. Yeah.
Yes. And then the other one, many succulents, if you take the leaf off and you just put it down, doesn't need water, it doesn't need lighter soil, it will grow into a new plant because everything that it needs is already in the leaf.
Hmm.
And we are that way too. We have everything that we need in order to grow into the people we want to be. At some point, we're going to need help, like that leaf. It's
Mhm.
going to need water and it's going to need light. But as far as the basics, what we need to thrive in life, we already have. We don't need to look outside for that.
Hmm.
And that's another analogy that I love to share.
Yeah, I love that one too. And do you feel like there's anything that you would have missed out on had you not started Just Suck It?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. The confidence that I've gained from this, and really it's because I decided to say yes.
Mhm.
I have said yes to things that I would have said no to before because I would be afraid to make mistakes, and or fear of failure.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time I got an email asking if I could do 300 boxes.
Oh my
I
god.
think Andrea 5 years ago would have been like, "There's no way. I don't know how. I can't do it. That's too much." And I just replied, "Sure, yes, when you need it." And then I ran off panicking, trying to
Right.
figure out how to do 300 boxes. But it's because of that like my confidence has grown a lot, just as a person, as an individual, and then as a business owner. And I I just I don't know what else could have happened in my life to help me grow, no pun intended, the way that I have in the year and a half, almost 2 years that I've had Just Suck It.
Yeah.
It's just been amazing. The people I've met, and I never thought I'd have a product-based business. So it's also helped me recognize some of these limiting beliefs that I've had, thinking that I'm only ever going to do something service-based because I have to feel like I'm making a difference.
Mhm.
And I'm still making a difference with succulents and gift boxes.
Yeah.
So it's really helped me open up my mind and improve my confidence too.
That's awesome. I feel like there's an analogy there about like growing to the size of your pot and then having to like switch to a larger pot when the succulent gets too large. I don't know.
I'm, I'm, that's a good one, and I'm going to work on that.
I
And
was
I'll
gonna say it
I'll
needs
let
some
you.
finesse,
Yes,
obviously, but
no, no, that's a good one. I like it.
yay. So now, what advice would you give to other women out there who are thinking about starting a business?
I would say go for it. Do the research, see what the competition is. But if there's something inside of you that feels like you need more or you want to try, you just should. And the reality is, your first business might be successful, it might not be,
Hmm.
but I think it's more important to try and not have the success that you hope for than wondering than not trying and then wonder if I had tried if I would have had success. I literally have had very moderate success with anything that I've done in the last decade as someone who's self-employed. And
Mm.
it's because all of my experiences with corporate wellness and having some online programs and surrounding myself with other business owners that I was able to create Just Suck It and then for it to have the success that it has. So, number one, go for it.
Yeah.
Two, know that is it Facebook that says fail fast? Is it? Have you heard that expression?
I've
Fail
heard that, yeah,
fast.
fail early, fail
Yeah,
fast. Yeah.
yeah, fail. Yeah. So know that making mistakes and what other people might see as failure is actually a learning opportunity and
Mm.
for you to improve. And I use that approach with Just Suck It, and it's been really helpful.
So now, where can we learn more about you and your awesome succulents?
Well, I right now you could go to justsuckit.com or just suck it on Instagram, and I'm just suck it OC on TikTok. That probably will be changing.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. But right now, that's how people can find me.
Perfect.
And my email is Andrea at justsuckit.com with two C's. If you put SUCK, I am not responsible for anything that comes up on your internet.
Not safe for work. Got it.
No, no.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Andrea.
Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. This was fun.
This was such a fun interview. I feel like I got a ton of great business advice from chatting with Andrea. I did, however, want to correct one thing I said in the episode when Andrea and I were talking about the whole fail fast in business thing. I said it was fail early, fail fast, but the phrase is actually fail fast, fail often. And there's a book about it that I've dropped a link for in the show notes. As someone who has had two businesses, I totally agree with the fail fast, fail often mentality. Sure, do some research before starting a business to make sure you're as prepared as you can be. But you won't be prepared for everything. As Andrea mentioned, you can plan and prep all you want, but sometimes things happen that you simply can't plan for, like receiving a cease and desist letter from Nike. But you'll handle those unplanned things when they happen and pivot or adapt to the situation as needed. However, if you get stuck in that research mode instead and don't start your business out of fear of failure, then you'll never start at all. Regardless of what it is that you want to start, whether it's a business or starting a new job or trying out some courses or training in an entirely new field, sometimes setting a hard start date can help you get unstuck from research mode and get you started on your path. All right, that's all I have for today. Remember, listeners, that the show will be switching to a once-a-month interview episode for now, with no solo episodes in between. But when I do come back, I'll be chatting with wine owner and negotiant Krishan Lampley about her journey of building a national wine brand. Until then, go find out. Thanks for listening to the show. I hope the information helps you tackle your own career switch goals. You can let me know what you thought of the show by messaging me on Instagram at GoFindOutCareerSwitch or commenting on one of my TikToks at EvergrowthCoach. That's it for today. Now go find out.